Hello everyone, my name is Timotius Siahitaher. I am from University and I enrolled in English Literature. I have spent one semester abroad in Singapore, specifically at Nanyang Technological University. I am enrolled in 3 courses during my stay here: Cultural Intelligence, How to be an Explorer of the World, Environmental Sustainability, and lastly, Introduction, Computational Thinking, and Programming. Currently, I am at the Hive right now, which could be considered as one of the most iconic places in NTU because of its design. Some say it is iconic because it looks like a beehive, hence the name. However, I do believe that it looks more like a bamboo dish dim sum tray. The first time I heard about IISMA, I didn't think about it too much, simply because I think I didn't expect that I will be able to get accepted, honestly. I just joked around with my friends, daydreaming, saying that it would be fun to be able to study abroad fully funded, especially because my background is not from a family that could afford it. I'm only planning to enroll just to get it out of my system, and so that I have no regrets about not applying. And thank God I get accepted. I was so thrilled that I prepared for my departure as soon as possible, creating my passport, looking for some information about Singapore, and even dorm life at NTU. But suddenly, the plan got cancelled because of the COVID cases in Singapore. The exchange sadly got postponed. It was actually really heartbreaking for me, knowing that I am a final year student and I wouldn't get this chance anymore if it were to get postponed the second time. Luckily, COVID in Singapore has been getting a lot better, and now here I am, spending one semester in my dream university. So although COVID in Singapore has been getting a lot better, I still need to follow all the health regulations here. So as soon as I arrive in Singapore, I need to spend 7 days of quarantine in a hotel. However, rather than feeling tired, exhausted, or even feel lonely, I have to tell you that it was one of the best experiences for me. As someone who is an ambivert, being able to spend some time in your shell is such a nice feeling. I was tired of socializing during my departure day because I spent lots and lots of time getting to know all of my fellow IISMA Awardees. Then suddenly, I was allowed to recharge my energy for the whole week. I was able to rest, do some assignments, read, and spend a lot of time having a group call with my families and friends. It was such an enjoyable experience that 7 days felt so short. Honestly, I don't mind reliving that experience again, given that I can afford it, of course. About culture shock, it surprised me honestly, since Indonesia and Singapore are so close, but various cultural differences still surprises me. The most notable one is about courtesy in here. I'm not saying that people here are rude, they are extremely kind in fact, especially to those people who are new here. However, the common courtesy here is different than in Indonesia. I remember during my first few weeks, I always nod my head and smile at anyone I walk past. It's just a habit of mine. When I'm walking and I walk past somebody, I will say phrases like "Mari Pak," "Mari Bu," and here it is a bit awkward if I did it. I remember I always do that to everyone, and so for example like construction workers, dorm neighbors, or even the cleaning aunties and uncles here. And I always get this weird stare at me, as if I did something really weird and they were confused by looking at me. So I was really surprised honestly. But because it is a habit of mine, I keep doing it over and over again. I was really embarrassed every time I did it, and I still remember the faces of people made that are weirded out by my behavior. So after the first month or so, I was able to stop that habit of mine. But sometimes, honestly, I still feel weird when I walk past somebody without doing anything. I somewhat feel bad as if I'm arrogant or even unapproachable. But I guess it is what it is. So the first time I joined the courses here, I was surprised by the pace of learning here. It moved from one topic to another really fast. There are a lot of pre-reading materials and the professors expect us to keep up with all of the assignments while also studying by ourselves. Some classes have something called Learning Activity Management System, or usually people here call it by LAMS. So other than 3 hours of in-class activity, I was also expected to study all the lecture videos, assignments, and quizzes provided in labs, which might take like 1 or 2 hours every single week. It might sound bothersome, but it was such a fulfilling experience to be able to learn things in the field way as well. And I don't have much choice either, since even after learning through labs, it is still challenging to keep up with the class materials. The lecture practice is completely different than my home university. In my home university, the schedule is not separated by each class activity. On the other hand, the schedule here is different. The same course is differentiated into the following categories: lecture, lab, tutorial, and seminar. For lecture, as the name suggests, consists of the professor providing a lecture for the class, while lab is the time for each student to work independently, either given a weekly task or maybe continuing a class project. For tutorial, it is the time where the students get an explanation on how to do the assignment. It is especially helpful for practical classes like my programming class, where the professor explains how to work on each code step by step. Lastly, seminar. It is where the students will sit together and discuss the materials topic given by the professor. So because of all those differences, here compared to my home university, I need to change my usual learning habits, and that is spending a lot of my time studying independently. Since the professor won't wait for anyone, I am required to always do some additional research after and before classes to ensure that I will fully understand the materials taught in class. And let me tell you, 3 hours of classroom is not enough to understand a lot of materials given here. I was also required to study outside of my room, since living here means that I will have to spend my time in my dorm with a roommate. And I was not used to studying while there is somebody else with me. Luckily, FU provided various places for students to study, such as the Art, the Dormitory Lounge, Liwinam Library, the Hive, and many more. If I were to be allowed to go back in time, I would probably spend more time learning the basics of my course before I joined the first class, because I was overwhelmed in the first few weeks with a lot of things that I don't understand beforehand. One thing that affects me after I finally studied abroad is that I become a lot more independent. I'm not saying that I'm not independent back in Indonesia, since I was able to work and pay my expenses ever since I enrolled in high school. However, I'm still living close to my parents and my family. Every time I'm tired, every time I'm facing tough situations, they were there for me. Even the simplest things such as when they cook me dinner or even wake me up when I didn't hear my alarm is extremely helpful and keeps me sane during my toughest time. Having the opportunity to live abroad, far from my safe space and my emotional support, is really tough. I realized that I have to take a lot of things. I take a lot of things for granted because of it, and I become more grateful towards a lot of things around. I couldn't think of my most memorable moment, but one of the most memorable moments is when I went to a place called Bukit Timah with 2 of my friends. We were only supposed to go to the nature reserve, which is supposed to be like a 15-minute walk. However, all 3 of us are terrible at navigation, which made us lost and walk through the hiking trail instead. We were not ready for hiking at all, and in the end, we spent more than 5 hours of hiking, as opposed to like 15 minutes leisure walk. Since there are a lot of things that I've experienced, I believe that the most favorable things that I have earned as an IISMA awardee is both the experience itself and the connection that I've made here. This is my first time living away from my family, and I have faced many difficulties. However, I also experienced a lot of wonderful things along the way. I have met a lot of great people, both my fellow IISMA Awardees and also the locals here. I hope that even after I return to Indonesia, I'm still able to keep my curiosity to its peak. I'm curious about everything here. I love discovering something new, either by learning myself or even asking the locals here. Although I'm not in the classroom like 24/7, I am still able to learn a lot of things that way, and I hope I am able to keep that attitude going forward. I am officially IISMA biased because I would have never imagined being able to study abroad in such a prestigious university had I not tried to register this one in a lifetime chance. Be bold to go abroad.